Hi everyone, this is Surya. I'm an ML engineer from India. So today I'll be giving a brief about how you can prepare the dataset for your own language. And just before going into that, I'd like to take a moment on like what IA meant for me and what's the motivation behind joining the IA. Next slide, please. So, being a native speaker of the Telugu language, which has been like predominantly spoken in the southern parts of the India and which has around 96 million speakers, like I never realized how underrepresented it is in the ML domain until I first came across the ML project where I trained the optical character recognition model for the Telugu. In that project, like I had faced an issue regarding the scarcity of the data we have for the Telugu, due to which we had a kind of a bottleneck in terms of model performance. Then after that, like I had a like few encounters where I want to train the model in the Telugu and then just like kind of had the scarcity of data and then just thought okay maybe some other time I could find like more data set and then I'll try to train the model for a good performance. Then came the like recent advancements in the large language models, and same repeated kind of they are lagging in the Telugu, kind of missing that particular cultural touch. And whenever you are asked to kind of ask the questions regarding the deep language understanding, then they kind of hallucinate like a lot. And then like on one day, like I found I on the Twitter feed, and then particular quote of no language left behind kind of pulled me towards the project. And the goal of increasing the representation of low resource language in the ML community, it's kind of excited for me. So I just started. I jumped onto the project, and it kind of became the first open source project for me. So when I meant like the low resource language, so what I meant is like, can you go to the next slide? So if you look at the current open source industrial data set, so you could find like a lot of data set, particularly in English. And when coming to the other language, you can't find like that many data sets. Like you could really count the number of data sets in other languages in on your fingers. So this particular scenario is kind of troubling when you want to have like a more representation of the different languages and cultures in the ML domain. So in order to like increase that, like what like someone like when you don't have the data set for your language, what you can do, so that I'll be focusing on the rest of the presentation. So next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So coming to the data creation workflow, so we have kind of a four stages where you by which you can create the insert style data set. The first one is where you gather the data set. You have like a lot of data around the internet, and you need to have a good idea on like what to pick for the data to create the data set. And the next one will be the how to structure the like data set such that it will be easily given to train the model. And the next one is data processing. Kind of you need to do some data cleaning and you need to modify the data such that it will be useful for others. And once you have done that, you'll get the insert data set. So throughout this workflow, like I will be discussing each of these steps, and also I will be giving an example of how we did it, like for my language, like Telugu language, how we did it for news article data set. So I'll be giving kind of theory, kind of practicals on what we did. Next slide, please. Coming to the first step, so the first step starts with the like data gathering. So you can gather the data predominantly in these four different steps. Like these can be like kind of increasing order of the difficulty. The first one, you can use the existing NLP data set with licenses of MIT Apache 2.0 and similar. So you can just use those things and directly convert it. So it was kind of a less effort in terms of creating the data set if you use the existing NLP datasets. And the other one is the API retrieval, where you have like proprietary APIs or open source APIs where you can just make an API call and get the data you want. And the next one is the documents or the books where like you can pick the non-copyrighted documents and perform OCR. You can use some PyTest or some proprietary tools to get the data from it. And the next one, like most intensive one, will be the web scraping, where you need to pick the correct non-copyrighted website, and then you can use Python or JavaScript to do it. And you need to be careful regarding how you scrape the data set. Kind of, you need to do it in a batch of intervals such that you don't crash down the whole server which is hosting the website. And coming to the example, like what we did. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is what we have done for scraping the news articles. So we have found one non-copyrighted website, and we kind of identified 7 categories, kind of national, international, and sports. And like these kind of categories we found, and then we first kind of scraped all the web page links corresponding to that. We have kind of 240K plus web page links we scraped, and then we had like another program where it will scrape the for each of those links to scrape the headline and the content by just going through the each of the elements in that particular web page. So like we have done using Node.js, kind of we have done kind of parallel batch processing. We at each time for this particular interval of time, we like collected the data set and kind of halted it for some time, such that we are kind of imitating the natural user behavior. And then once we had all those things and everything is with no errors, then we combined using pandas and created a one big like CSV file for which we can use it in the rest of the pipeline. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yep, yeah. And the second part goes to the creation of the template. So template is kind of how do you structure the prompt and the completion. So if you take an example of template type 2, so here we have like the data we have is the article content and the article headline. So given the article content, write a headline for it. So that's how we structured the prompts, and we have like two different types of templates for it. Kind of when you create the data set, make sure to have a like diversity in terms of like different tasks, where given the headline create the content, and given the content create the headline, and even like given the partial article create the like rest of the article. So the different types of tasks, and even the different types of sentence formations, and make sure to add different synonyms while creating the templates. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. And the next step is the data processing. So whenever you get the data and you had templates, you can't directly go into the creating the data set. Kind of you need to do some kind of data cleaning to make sure it's perfect. So the one of the things you can do is you can just explore the data and all. So some of the things to keep in mind is like you need to remove the unnecessary Unicode characters which might come when you do the web scraping or do the OCR, and remove the toxic or biased instances, and even removing the similar instances so that we don't get the duplicate entries in the dataset. And the other one is like outlier instances. Next slide. And this is what we have done for the data set. So we have plotted the article content and article headline length, and we just plotted the histogram of it, and then we just deleted the longer and shorter headline and content. And then we also removed these particular Unicode characters, like which we came across while web scraping, particularly the Telugu data set. And the next one with the like unusual punctuation marks. So we kind of used a regular expression and kind of replaced with the normal punctuation characters, and then we deleted the duplicate articles. So we just used to kind of similarity between the articles, and with the articles with more similar, we just removed it. And the toxic articles, so we do know that some of the words are kind of toxic and biased. So if you found those words in the articles, we just remove those articles. Next slide. And once you have done all this, so now you are ready to create the data set. Okay, you have created the data set. Then just upload to the Hugging Face, and just before uploading, just verify once that whatever you intended, like template wise and everything is actually reflecting there. And then please always do add a readme such that the person who was going to use the data set, or who was going to extend the data set, will know the context of why it has been created and from where it has been created. Next slide, please. Next. Yeah. And this is what we have done for the IA collection. So these were all the different templated data sets that we have created for the non-English languages. Like we had like 44 data sets consisting of 12.4 million instances, and for 57 languages excluding English. And we had like more than 18 languages which had 100K instances in it. And these were all submitted by the created by the IA data team, and a lot of community members from different languages came together and created these data sets. And for this, like, I like to give a small shout out regarding the Telugu data set, like, which was like one of the low resource language that was in the top 10 biggest data sets that we had. So I like to give a shout out to JC, who has been with me. Like he helped us. Like we two sat together for a couple of months, and we got together and created the more diverse data set. And I'd also like to thank like Shivalika, Daniel, and Marcia, who gave us pointers on how to create the data set and helped us to create that amount of data set. Next slide. Yep. So just to recap, so we need to kind of, if you want to create a data set for your own language, so just start by gathering the data. So by this time you had a pretty good idea on where to look, where in which places you can look. And then once you get the data, you create the templates with more diversity, then do the data processing and everything, then you are fine with the instruction data set. So I hope, like, with this presentation, you will start to create the data set when you have a free time. So yeah, that's all from my side. So I like to uh, thank like each and every IA contributor and IA team for helping like create these data sets. And yep, thank you.